If there's a topic that seems to be really divisive among the viewers of this channel and those who leave comments down below in the videos, it is affordable import guitars. So I'm gonna go ahead and shake up the hornet's nest because today we're finally gonna take a look at this. This is the Harley Benton JA20HH Active guitar. I thought there were more words after that, but nope, that's it. Let's do it. Alright guys, hope you're doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name is Kyle. What I do is I take all sorts of awesome high gain related guitar equipment, I record it with a simple setup, and I give you the unprocessed audio on your end. So if you're into E-stand or thrash riffs, dropsy hardcore riffs, and dudes that seem to be developing restless leg syndrome at the age of 35, you're in the right place. Consider hitting the like button and subscribing on the way out so you don't miss any more of my stuff. Thanks! Alright guys, so this guitar is making a second appearance on the channel. Many of you will remember my Harley Benton 3 guitar unboxing almost a year ago at this point, because that video still gets commented on almost on a daily basis to this day. And people in the comment section of that video are very divided. A lot of people think that Harley Benton is the greatest thing since sliced bread because they offer a ton of different options at incredibly affordable price points, and for the most part, people seem to really think that these are very high quality instruments for the price that you pay, which is typically very little. On the other side of that argument, we have the people who think that anything that was touched by non-American hands is an absolute piece of dog shit
and should be lit on fire and thrown into the ocean.
That was an actual comment. Why you would light something on fire and then immediately throw it in a body of water is beyond me. There are also a lot of really nice comments directed at me. Some people accuse me of being a diva or a princess because 2 of the 3 guitars had some pretty heavy play marks on the plastic that goes over the pickguard. And they thought that I was being unreasonable that when you buy a brand new guitar, it should come to you brand new and unplayed. So for those of you who have poo-poo doo-doo nugget brains, thanks for the entertainment. But anyways, I figured it was finally time to bring this thing back and give it a proper one-on-one review and give you guys my take on whether this is a worthy instrument at $229, either for the beginner guitarist or, as a lot of people love to do with Harley Benton guitars, use them as a mod platform or an upgrade platform. Me personally, I fall into that category, and I was really interested in these guitars for that very reason. So real quick, let's go over the specs of this guitar, and then we're actually gonna plug it in and play a few riffs and see what kind of tones that we can get out of this bad boy. My first impressions of this guitar are, other than it was definitely a B-stock, even though I didn't purchase it as a B-stock, I actually think it feels like a really good quality instrument for that $229 that I paid for this thing. It feels well balanced. I personally enjoy the neck shape. That's gonna be a personal opinion type thing. There is no good or bad, but for me, it is a pretty nice feeling neck. The fret ends are a little bit rough in certain spots. They're not terrible for sure, but as you're going up and down that neck, you're gonna be able to feel them. So if you really want a smoother playing experience, you're probably gonna need to get a fret file out, or as I often tell people when they are buying these budget guitars and they don't work on them themselves, take them to a local shop that does quality setups, get this thing a setup and tell them to knock down some of those fret edges, and that'll just make it a more comfortable playing experience. So not perfect there, but also not terrible by any means. The tuners on this guitar will absolutely 100%, in my opinion, need to be replaced because these things are very crunchy feeling. They definitely have little spots in the rotation of the tuner head where things start to give you a little bit of resistance and then gets a little bit looser. It's just not a very consistent tuning experience, and honestly, that would be the first thing on any of these guitars that I would change out myself because it was definitely the worst part of all 3 guitars. And then finally, moving on to what I think is the last item that I want to highlight. These Harley Benton active pickups are absolute garbage. Again, my opinion, but playing these pickups, all 3 guitars, they do not sound good, man. They are very muddy, very fat. They have no chord definition, and overall, they don't sound good to me. So in our sound samples, I'm gonna compare this guitar with a couple of other similar guitars that have EMGs and Fishman Fluence pickups. Those are kind of the common active humbuckers, just to show you how much the sound does vary from these to a quality active humbucker. So yeah, those are the highlights or the lowlights in my opinion. As far as the actual specs of the guitar, we have a Poplar Jazzmaster style body, and on the back here we've got a nice tummy cut for those of us who are starting to put on the pounds as we age. I'm mainly talking about you guys. I look fantastic. Moving up to the neck, we have a bolt-on maple neck with a Roseacre fretboard. This is the first guitar that I've ever owned or even played with a Roseacre fretboard, and I'm not super familiar with that wood species as far as fretboard woods go. I would imagine that they use this wood on these cheaper guitars because it's probably more cost effective than rosewood or ebony. The scale on this guitar is 25.5 inches, and moving on to the actual features, we have a basically direct rip-off style hip shot bridge here. You guys can see it is, it looks almost exactly like a hip shot bridge. Of course, it's not a hip shot bridge, and it's probably made of like Zamic or some sort of pot metal, but in my opinion, that's never really been that big of a deal. Just as long as the hardware itself is stable, I don't care about bridge material all that much. Moving up to the pick guard, we've got two of those poo-poo doo-doo butt nugget Harley Benton active pickups that I definitely am not a fan of. We have a three-way switch to control those poo-poo butt nugget pickups, and then down here we have one single volume control. So I really dig the one single volume control. You guys know me, I'm a grip it and rip it type dude, and I just love simplicity because I'm a simple person with a simple amount of brain cells. I did forget to mention, along with the scale length, that this is a 22 fret guitar. Moving up to the headstock area, we have our die-cast tuners. Obviously, die-cast tuners means absolutely nothing at this point because these are pretty hot trash. More like die-crack tuners. Am I right? Feel free to unsubscribe. So that is pretty much it. The nut material, I'm looking at the page here because I have absolutely no memory to say this stuff off the top of my head. It doesn't mention anything about the nut material, so I'm guessing that it's probably just your basic plastic nut that you're gonna find on very low-end import guitars. Back here, of course, we have our battery cover, which is actually really nice that it's one of these flip-out style covers. I don't understand why ESP and LTD don't have covers like this because the screw-in types can screw off. I hardly slept last night, so jokes are gonna be worse than usual or better than usual, depending on how you look at it. They're worse. But yeah, I mean, for me, that pretty much rounds it out. I know it sounds like I'm crapping on this guitar, guys, but I do like this thing. I really do. I like the other two that I have in the other room that we're gonna take a look at a little later on down the channel, and we're probably gonna upgrade those. I actually sold this guitar to a viewer of the channel to help pay some vet bills for my dog Maverick. So I did wanna keep this thing and upgrade it, but it's just not in the cards for right now. I'll grab another one down the line if you guys really do want to see that. But I think the bones of this guitar are good. Like I said, the neck feels nice, the playability out of the box was good, and honestly, the intonation of it out of the box is good. Let's go ahead, let's plug this into a few staple metal guitar amps. Let's blast a couple belligerent amateur riffs through it and give you my thoughts. All right, guys, so I have the Harley Benton JA20HH, I think that's it, right? We're going with it. Plugged into the 6505, the 1992 original by Peavey, going into, of course, my Mesa 1999 traditional cab, stock vintage 30s, SM57. On that V30, we will have no post-processing on any of the audio that you guys hear. So what you're hearing is what is coming directly out of my speakers, and it will be no funny business here. So we're gonna play two ways. I'm gonna do one riff on each amp so you guys can get an idea of how it sounds through three legendary metal amps. And I'm gonna play that riff twice, once with no boost out front, and then once with a boost to kind of shape some of the things that I don't like about these pickups. We will also compare this guitar again with two other guitars that have more common active pickups, just so you can see how much the sound differs between the Harley Bentons and something you might be more familiar with. So with that being said, here we go. All right, guys, first riff, 6505, no overdrive. All right, so there you go. There is the guitar with no overdrive. I gotta say, man, this thing feels pretty good to play for a guitar that cost $229 shipped to my door. I'm actually fairly impressed with the out-of-the-box setup on this thing. The only thing that I have done to it is change the stock strings out for D'Addario 11 to 49s. That should be the first thing that any of you guys do as well, because the stock strings on these guitars are You guessed it, poo-poo-doo-doo butt nuggets. All right, so let's kick that overdrive on. Let's make a very slight adjustment to the sound that we have going on here. All right, so the hoarder in me is screaming right now because this guitar actually does play really good and feels nice to play, and now I wish I hadn't have sold it so I could do a cool mod project with it, but we'll save that for one of the other Harley Bentons that I purchased over in the other room. I think what I'm saying about the pickups holds up though. I think that they do sound pretty indistinct, pretty muddy, even compared to other active pickups. The tonal character just isn't there for me, and the feel, they don't really feel tight. They feel kind of tubby, so not my favorite, but I'm sure different pickups could easily fix the tonal things that I'm not liking about the guitar. Just to compare real quick, I'm gonna do a back to back to back with the other two guitars so you guys can hear it. All right, so as you can hear, with the way I didn't change anything on the dials or the controls or anything between the three guitars, the Harley Benton is the fullest, it's the darkest, it actually has the most output. It's got a lot of, those pickups have a lot of output, but it is definitely the least clear, it is the most muddy sounding, and I personally would choose the other two guitars tonally over the Harley Benton, especially after a little bit of tweaking, and that just goes to show you that not all active pickups sound the same. So anyways, on to the dual rectifier. All right guys, I misspoke. This is actually my 3-channel triple rectifier with the Legendary Tones hot mod installed. First riff will be without the boost engaged, and then second riff we will engage the boost. Very typical rectifier tone, very fat, kind of muddy on its own. The guitar isn't really helping things. We're gonna kick in that boost real quick. So of course, when you boost a rectifier, it just sounds much tighter and more articulate in general. That Legendary Tones hot mod actually helps add some headroom in the gain department in the preamp and clears up some of the mud, but the guitar sounds really good with the overdrive into this amp, in my opinion. I was actually thinking that I would like it the least because of how muddy and indistinct the pickups are, but it just sounds like a good rectifier tone through this amp. So last but not least, let's hit up the JCM 900 high gain dual reverb. All right guys, last but not least for our sound samples today, JCM 900 100 watt high gain dual reverb amplifier. I actually mistakenly grabbed the master volume model and didn't realize it until I plugged into it. So too many amps problems. I'm not complaining. Dude, I'm having a lot of fun playing this guitar. Honestly, if I was blindfolded, other than the sharp fret ends, which can very easily be remedied, I would never guess that this is a cheap $229 guitar. Like, straight up, I'm having a really great time playing this. Couple of mods, this thing is a ripper. So last but not least, let's kick in that overdrive. That sounds pretty damn good. And that's gonna do it for me today, guys, on the Harley Benton JA20HH active guitar. Pretty sure that I got that wrong, but that's okay. You guys know my thoughts on this guitar because you've been listening to me ramble for the last 20 minutes, but I wanna know what you guys think. Is this a guitar that you could see getting for a beginner guitarist as their first guitar, as a gift? Is this a guitar that you wanna buy for yourself and use as a mod platform, or do you just wanna buy it for yourself and play it as is and enjoy it the way God intended? Anyways, let me know those thoughts down below in the comments. Really curious to hear what you guys have to say about this thing, and do you want to see more Harley Benton content on the channel? If you would like to see individual reviews of those guitars and possible modification upgrade videos, let me know down below in the comments, because I really love upgrading affordable guitars and turning them into rippers. It's one of my favorite things to do in the gear world, and I would love it if you guys were also into that, so I could make fun videos for everybody. If you do want to see stuff like that and you want to support my channel, make sure to hit those affiliate links down below if you're planning on purchasing any new gear. My friends at Sweetwater and Zounds will have you covered, and maybe I'll even have a Reverb affiliate thing by the time this video airs. That is where I bought this guitar, and I will link to it regardless of if it's an affiliate link or not. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time.
You know what this wall is missing? Another amp. There we go.